God, what is that? Okay. Hey, what do you know? We're so lucky today. Oh my gosh, Kerry, you know why I'm lucky? Because I get to
Because your
work
mom's
with
here?
you. I get to work with you. My mom is here. By the way, my mom's birthday was yesterday, so get happy birthdaying in that chat, you boobs.
Happy birthday to you.
She's
And here's your
37. Does not explain her
biological father.
52-year-old son. But, my biological father, Steve Brogan, he had something to do with it. Hi, Elizabeth, you made it. What do you not have meetings today? You always have meetings.
Guess what? We get to talk to
What?
Nancy Harhut today.
Nancy Harhut is here. I
So
can't
I
believe it.
met Nancy years ago. I interviewed her for Marketing Profs about behavioral science and how people make decisions and how there's like shortcuts we all use to decide which actions to take and how marketers can use them. And I was like, oh my God, she's brilliant. And so I introduced her to everybody I could think of and like sent them her way for stuff. And I kept thinking, oh my God, I wish she had a book. I wish she had a book. She has a book using behavioral science in marketing. She has a book.
Nancy Harhut and a book. Backpack Show.
Hi, Chloe, over in Scotland.
Elizabeth, I just saw a copy of The Scotsman this morning for a project I'm working on. It was kind of weird and jarring.
Bunch of birthday wishes for your mom, which is awesome. Thanks, Valerie and Carl.
Thanks, Valerie and Carl. Yeah.
So this is not as nefarious as it sounds, but people apparently don't think through every single decision we make. The whole as fresh each time. Do you know what I mean? Like we don't start over again. We have like a predisposition based on previous decisions that we have made. And apparently you can capitalize on those.
What? We have to ask some questions about this. I don't, we asked, evidently Nancy says it's partly our fault that we kind of bullied her into finishing her book and doing it.
Oh, I should say bullied, encouraged.
Potato, Texas. But, I think that there's, this is the book. This is one of 4 books you need to read this year. That's what I'll tell you about that. This is one of 4. Let's grab Nancy Harhut and dig into this thing. Nancy, welcome on board.
Hello, happy to be here. And happy birthday to Chris's mom. Today would have been my mother's birthday.
Oh, look at that. Happy birthday to your mom.
Happy birthday, Mom, up there. You decided to write this book. You decided to dig into behavioral science and marketing. This is, marketers aren't about that. Marketers are about having different colored hair. And they think, it'd be really great to collect a whole bunch of email addresses and big fat forms and stuff like that. You didn't write about that. What'd you do?
So, well, it's funny. Marketers are all about we got to get the right message to the right person at the right time, and there's nothing wrong with that, except it's missing a critical component. It needs to be the right message to the right person at the right time in the right way, and the right way is the way people are more likely to absorb it and respond to it. And in order to do that, marketers really need to tap into behavioral science. Behavioral scientists, social scientists, behavioral economists, they've studied how people make decisions. And what they found is very often we don't think through things. We're not really making rational, well thought out, well considered decisions. We're defaulting to decision making shortcuts. And if a marketer is aware of the decision making shortcuts that people rely on, that marketer is going to do a lot better in terms of connecting with their target market and getting the response they want.
Breaking news. We don't really think things through. Hi, Leslie.
Wow.
It sounds a little like manipulation when you say it that way, but I'm thinking that people have made decisions like this in the past, right? That's really what we're talking about. It's like you've been in a similar situation before. Now you're presented with a situation that in a lot of ways is like that one. And so really why shouldn't you shortcut that decision? Because it's not so out of character for you. It's like you just donated to that cause or you just bought that thing, So it's not like evil, I guess, is what I'm trying to say.
No, you're absolutely right. What it is a way to conserve mental energy. And this is something that humans are, hardwired to do. We're hardwired to conserve mental energy. And so if we've made a decision before, and it's worked out for us, then we just kind of default to that decision again in the future because it allows us to conserve mental bandwidth. And way back when, if you think about our ancient ancestors, strolling along, 2 of them are strolling along, they see a saber-toothed tiger, and one of them is considering things. It's like, ooh, that fur looks soft. Oh, but those teeth, they look sharp. I wonder, boom, that one is lunch, right? They're gone. Whereas the one who sees a tiger, turns around and beats it out of there, they live to see the next day. That's the one who lives to see the next day. Those are the genes that get passed on to us. And, for a while, those were, it was incredible. It helped keep people alive. And now, we still have those same genes. We still have some of those same hardwired decision making shortcuts, and they basically just help us get through the day, kind of navigate the day, and not have to really engage our brains except when it's absolutely necessary. So it's not, I think if you've got a good product and you've got a good service and you're targeting people properly, you're helping them make a decision. You're not manipulating them, and no one can make someone do something they don't want to do. We're just making it easier for people to do something that they might actually really want to do.
You hit so many. Hey, Joel, you hit so many of these little mental things in the book. I mean, obviously, that's the whole concept of the book. But like, for instance, the difference between I'm going to hand you something or I'm going to take something away. And you give us the hint that maybe no one is as excited to win that free iPad as they are afraid to lose something.
It's absolutely true. And that's another one of those things that is hardwired into us. Humans are twice as motivated to avoid the pain of loss as they are to achieve the pleasure of gain. And of course, what do we do in marketing? We focus on the gains, right? The benefits, the advantages, all the wonderful things that will happen. And again, we know benefits sell. There's nothing wrong with them. But a little well-placed loss aversion can go a long way because we're actually twice as motivated to avoid the pain of loss. So instead of saying, take advantage of this great deal, maybe we say, don't miss this great deal. And it's just enough to kind of trigger that hardwired decision-making shortcut where we focus in, we pay attention. We're like, oh, wait a minute, I don't want to miss something. I should pay attention to this.
How micro do you get with this? Like, there's kind of the overarching principles of what drives human response. But then there's, I need to send an email today to get people to do like a trial of my SaaS product. Like, what do we put in the subject line for that? How do you apply those broader principles to like immediate marketing tasks?
Yeah, sure. Well, I mean, the difference between, take advantage of and don't miss is one example. If you were writing the subject line, take advantage of this deal versus don't miss this deal. But, speaking of, we'll stay with, with loss aversion, putting an expiration date, putting a deadline, saying today or now or soon, those are words that people pay attention to because they start to signal that idea that, oh, there's something timely here. There's something that I don't want to miss out on. So it's thinking about these principles and then, in a very practical way applying them. And the book is like jammed with examples where, it's like, try this, try this, try this, try this. Here's, a half a dozen different ways to use this. Here's a case study of someone who used it and here's what happened. Here's a marketing problem. You could have tried to solve it this way, but here's what the problem might have been. You could have tried to solve it this way, but here's what the problem might have been. You could solve it this way. This is what the company did in fact do. And, here's how it worked out for them. So there's a lot of very practical, actionable information because the truth is marketers don't have time to read all of these books and stay on top of all of the research and do all of the testing. So I've kind of done a lot of that for them. I've curated the information and it's like a hands-on handbook. Just go through it and you'll have a lot of great ideas to test.
Yeah, don't put this
Nancy,
book on the shelf. Keep it on your desk.
Yes.
Nancy, a lot of the best marketers already consider you the marketer's marketer. A lot of the best marketers I know talk about you and mention you and quote you all over the place. So now they've got a book to pull those quotes from. Did you ever write about social proof?
I did write about social proof. Yes.
In chapter 6?
In fact, it might be. I don't have the chapter
I don't know.
numbers
Chapter 5. I had it
memorized,
wrong.
but yeah, that's another one of those hardwired decision-making shortcuts where when people aren't certain of what to do, they look to others, particularly others like themselves, and they follow their lead. So while you might not believe what a marketer tells you, you are more likely to believe what that marketer's customer tells you. And that's particularly true if the customer is someone like you. So it's like, oh, people like me who are, I don't know, looking to switch banks. Okay, these are people who recently switched banks and they chose that bank. Maybe I should check it out. The other interesting thing about social proof is you assume that those people know something that you don't. You don't assume they were just as, lost and confused as you were. When someone else does something, we're like, oh, they must know something I don't. And that's another reason why social proof can be so powerful. So we do have a tendency to listen to what other people say and to follow their lead. and to trust the advice. It makes us feel safe. Like, all right, all these other people have done that. It's probably a pretty sound decision for me to make.
The other thing I was thinking about is you wrote a chapter on autonomy. Now, that's interesting to me insofar as like the company that we work at now, Kerry and I, and Bipasha. Hi, Bipasha. The company we work at has a marketplace app in which in the world of enterprise software selling, usually that's like, 3 salespeople and a stake and a big long process and that sort of a thing. We have a marketplace. You can go there just like the app store for Apple and click and get your stuff. You don't have to talk to anybody. You can just download it. That's one kind of version of autonomy. What are you talking about in the book?
So, well, what behavioral scientists have found is we all have this really deep-seated desire to exert some control over ourselves and our environments. So we don't like to be told what to do. We don't like to be boxed in. We like to be able to make some decisions for ourselves. And so giving people choices, which it sounds like you're just describing, like, go into the marketplace, pick the thing you want. That's a really powerful, very appealing, very psychologically appealing thing for people, because when people have choices, they feel that they're in control, that they have some form of autonomy. And there was a study that came out of Tulane University, and they found that if you give people a couple of choices as opposed to one, people are almost 4 times as likely to make a buying decision in the moment. If you put one thing down in front of them, they have nothing to compare it to. There's no context. So people think, well, yeah, let me sleep on it. Maybe I'll ask around. Maybe I'll do a little research. And a lot of times they don't get around to doing the research, asking around, getting back to it. But when you put a couple of different options, 2 or 3 options in front of people, then the choice, or the question, I should say, changes from do I or do I not want this to which of these do I want? And people are almost 4 times as likely to make the decision in the moment. And that's another example of autonomy. So autonomy can be very, very powerful.
Of those 3, there's definitely one you really want them to do. So how do you make that one stand out as the one?
So if you're going to put 3 options, so there are a couple of ways to do that. One way is to put the thing you're hoping they'll choose as the middle option, because very often, it's kind of like the pull of the magnetic middle or the Goldilocks effect. But we think the one on the left maybe isn't quite good enough, and the one on the right maybe is overpriced. I'll take the middle one; it's probably good. So you can put your option in the middle, your desired option in the middle. Some companies even create a high level mark that they don't really expect people to buy, but it makes, suddenly makes that product or service that they do want to sell the middle option, and it makes it more attractive. So that's one way to do things. Another thing you can do is a lot of companies will start with their lowest price service level and work their way up, it's like pushing a boulder up the hill. It's hard to do. Start with your most expensive and work your way down, because that second most expensive one is suddenly going to become a lot more palatable when it's anchored against the first more expensive one. A third thing you can do is just use visual cues. Make the option you want people to choose a little bit more prominent, a little bit more noticeable or salient, so that people kind of are drawn to it. They pay attention to it, and because they notice it, they're just more likely to engage with it.
We are talking to Nancy Harhut. Her new book just coming out. It's not even out yet.
It's not even out
in a
yet.
couple of weeks.
It's
Using
not out yet.
behavioral science in marketing. It
Need to get
is an absolute must. It is one of the 4 books you need to buy in 2022. You will still be reading
Not
it.
just buy it, read it. You need to read it. We all
Gotta
know
get
you
into
buy
it.
books and don't read them sometimes, because we all do that. Read
Yeah,
this
poop
one.
face heads. Take all those other ones and put them on the back part of the area.
Wow.
You're not going to use them anymore. Nancy, I'm going to ask you another question from another one of your pieces in the book, which is that there's 2 types of people in the world: those who can work with incomplete information.
Christopher.
That's a terrible joke, isn't it?
And then there'd be the rest of us who are wondering, all right, and what comes next, right? Yeah.
Right. Which, you talked about information gaps. You said that there's a challenge of information gap theory. I'm probably not doing the theory any justice here.
So, well, it was actually It's a term coined by a neuroeconomist named George Lowenstein. And what he found was if there's a gap between what you know and what you want to know, you'll take action to close the gap. So we're in marketing. We want people to take action, right? That's what we're all about. So if we can point out to people that there's a gap in what they know, they're more likely to take the action to close that gap, to find out the information that they're missing. And a great way to do that is to just use words like who, what, where, when, why, how, because that helps point out that there's an information gap. You can expand that to other superlatives: the best, the worst, the most, the least. But as long as somebody is interested enough in the topic to want to know some more information, pardon me, they will very often take the action to find out more. And finding out the information that they're missing actually gives them a kind of a release of neurochemicals in their brain, so it feels rewarding. So you're seeking out information, you find the information, you find the answer, and it actually feels good. And it's the actually finding the information that's the reward in and of itself, which I found kind of interesting as I was researching this. But as a marketer, yeah, tee things up. If people are uncertain of an answer, they are going to be more likely to try to find out what that answer is. And if you're offering it, beautiful.
We've had some comments come in. Joel says most of the time my sales page headlines are all about avoiding loss. Carl says I use a lot of don't miss, don't be the last one to know messaging to drive conversions, focusing on the what ifs. A lot of people saying happy birthday to Diane. Happy birthday to Diane. That's coming in still. And then we have conversation going over here about the 3-tier approach, like the one we were just talking about. Give people enough choices that they feel like they're in control. But that one you want them to pick just looks so good. And there's things that come down to even something as simple as color choices, right? Like the colors you use to display certain items or a single word. It's like very granular, I guess.
Yeah. It can be very interesting. Colors, there's a lot of talk about color, and people will tell you, your email button should always be green because that means go, or your email button color should never be red because that means stop, and we don't want to stop action. We want people, and really your email button color should be in a contrasting color to the rest of your email because you want them to stand out. Like that's, test after test after test actually proves that you want a contrasting color. But certain colors make people feel different things. Blue can instill trust, for example. Purple can feel a little bit more regal. And then when it comes down to words, it's really interesting. You can convey information with any number of different ways that pretty much convey the same information, but individual word choice can make a big difference. There was one study where a company was going to charge for shipping, and they tested either saying it was going to be a $5 fee or a small $5 fee. And we all know what $5 is, right? I mean, we under here in America, we understand what $5 is. There's no need, you would think, to explain it. And yet they got a 20% increase in response when they framed it as a small $5 fee. So they used, more words, greater character count, if you will, but still they got a bigger response by just kind of reminding people, by framing that $5 as small. So it's interesting, these little things that we think aren't going to make a big difference actually can. A lot of times marketers think if I just have the right information, and there's no errors in it, I've done my job. But that's not always true. Spend a little extra time thinking about your word choice, thinking about how customers are going to respond to it. It can really pay off.
For a 20% bump, I think most people would take another few minutes to think about it. Annette wants to get your book. She says you're a brilliant guest. Elizabeth says she'll put down her trashy romance novels for a while and read Nancy's book.
Well, thank you. Appreciate that.
Deanna caught my little preening when you said purple's more regal. I immediately thought, Chloe, come fix my website. It's not purple enough. I love that idea. Thank you. As you were talking about, word choice in that, you have a whole chapter on that. You have a whole chapter on the fact that things like rhyming and whatnot. And, this is depressing to admit. Sadly, I was thinking about our last United States president. Sadly, I was thinking about, for all of the things he did wrong, poorly, bad, one reason I suspect he got in was all his stupid 3-word rhymey things. It is, drain the swamp, lock her up. And like humans react to that baloney. Nancy, you probably have even more about that in the book.
So, well, I think, you raise a good point. And one of the one of the reasons that might have been so effective is just the repetition. It was easy, accessible language, and it was just repeated over and over and over again. And some studies show that, repetition is actually what leads to credibility and belief. If you hear something
Wait.
often enough, you'll believe it.
Some studies have said that repetition leads to credibility and belief. Is that what? Yeah.
Yes, that's exactly what I said. Some studies
Such
have
a
shown
smart aleck, Nancy.
repetition
Oh, that's
leads to
amazing,
credibility
Nancy.
and belief.
You don't have to dignify his jokes with a response.
I try the
But
veal.
yeah, but it's it is true though. You repeat something often enough, people in having a catchphrase like that, whether it rhymes or it doesn't, just having a catchphrase can be very effective. If it rhymes, it could be even more effective because rhymes are easier to remember. And interestingly, rhymes are easier for the human brain to process. And when it's easier for the brain to process something, it feels right. And if something feels right, it's not a big leap to assume that it is right. So in the book, I talk about the O.J. Simpson trial, right? If the glove doesn't fit, you must acquit. Cochran didn't say if the glove doesn't fit, you must vote not guilty. So it's just interesting. It's the same. It was the same information. Same information could be conveyed. If the glove doesn't fit, you must acquit. If the glove doesn't fit, you must vote not guilty. Same information, but one rhymes, the other doesn't. And people just have a tendency to perceive the rhyming phrases as more true or more accurate, more believable. So, this can impact how we write content titles, subject lines, headlines, slogans, right? I've done some work for Nationwide, so I'll say Nationwide is on our side, right? It's a great, memorable line, but it also turns out that it, in fact, is probably more believable because it rhymes.
They say Chris Brogan is known for a slogan.
Oh, stop it. One of the things
come to Brogan for your slogan. I like it. Yes.
I'm a lawyer, and so I remember, the OJ trial, like back when we would actually take the time to watch the whole trials because it was like a new experience. And he acted with his whole face, without ever taking the stand to say anything. When he went to put the glove on, it was like, can't pass. And then when it was time to take it off, it's like came off no problem. And I was like, damn, nobody noticed.
Yeah, really, really. It's like, wait, freeze that, stop that frame. Oh,
so
man.
Carol says that she's going to change all the website copy to call us now. But what is the right way if you want someone, if that's the call to action, which by the way is like one of the least popular probably calls to action is to actually talk to someone. Like nobody likes to do that. So how do you convince people to talk to you if they don't want to?
Well, call us now is a good word. Anything that suggests, immediacy, is good. But, she could also say, don't delay, call today and take advantage of the rhyming. And then, it is interesting. Some people do prefer to talk to another human being, depending on what it is that's being sold and what questions they might have. I do some work with the insurance industry, with the financial industry, and sometimes that's complicated. And it's like, I need to talk to somebody. I just want to talk to somebody. Same thing with tech sometimes. Other times people are like, it's the autonomy thing. I want to figure it out on my own. I just want to go online. I want to self-serve. So, I think a good thing to do is just offer a few different ways to respond and let people sort it out. If people want to call, they have the option to call. If people want to go online, they have the option to go online. Maybe have some frequently asked questions online. So, maybe people could self-serve. And then if they still don't find it, maybe then they'll say, okay, now I want to call. Now, of course, I understand that a lot of marketers, my clients included, say, oh, we'd really like to get the calls because once we can actually talk to somebody, we're much more likely to convert them. And so then you have to think about, well, why won't somebody want to call? What might be the thing that stands in the way? Do they think it's going to be a really lengthy call? Do they think they're going to be pressured? Do they think they're going to feel stupid because of the questions they're asking? Depending on what might be going through your customer or your prospect's head, you want to think about that. And then when you're encouraging people to call, you want to reassure them that those things aren't going to happen, that it's a no obligation call, or that, we have really friendly customer service reps and we've been in business for years. We've heard all kinds of questions. We've helped all kinds of people, like think about what it is that might be stopping somebody and build in the reason why that's not going to be a problem when they call.
We have some comments coming in that are rhyming. I always feel merry when I listen to Kerry.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Says Deanna. Never diss Chris, says Joel.
Great.
We're having a good time. And Papa Brogan says, what the mind can conceive, the mind can achieve.
There you go. See, you guys
Popular
are like,
one.
you're crowdsourcing here.
Right for the lizard brain, because we're all time constrained. It's true. I think My issue is not, oh no, it's going to take a long time when I have this phone call. I just don't want to talk to people. So if they give me a button that's like, talk to the robot, I might actually do it, like, depending what it is, especially depending what you're shopping for. Some people don't want to discuss like certain decisions with another person.
Yeah.
You
like
know,
they're rash.
yeah,
Listen, I have an
or
idea. I want
adult
to try
toys or
something
something.
out. We normally stick our
Uh-oh.
guests backstage when we read our ads, but Nancy, we're going to run our ads, and you tell us if they're convincing or not. Ready?
Okay.
All the best people who want a live video show use StreamYard. That's what I've been told. You should probably check it out. Make a show today. Get some cbrogan.net/StreamYard. What do you think? Is that good?
There's
So,
no urgency.
well, but what it does have is the endorsement of Chris Brogan, who's an authority. So that's a good thing. And you got
I
some
like that
social
part.
proof going on there too.
Yeah.
And it's a an arresting visual. It's an interesting choice for a visual. So that,
Like a really
that could
bent
be
duck,
helping.
right?
It's kind of a, you don't come across that all the time. So, you got some stuff here you can work with. Absolutely.
Cool. All right, let's try another one. Ready? Hey, do you want to do a podcast? Probably do. Get a podcast. You could get one at castos.com. I don't think
So,
that's
Incredibly easy to use. It takes
Oh, right,
just
it's easy.
seconds to get a new episode up.
So, I think absolutely saying that something is incredibly easy to use is good. We all look for things that are easy and simple and don't take a lot of time. So saying, and especially when you might be thinking, oh, I've never done a podcast, I'm thinking about starting one, it might be complicated. So you're kind of addressing a barrier, which is good. As I look at the peas in a pod, that might take me in a different direction. However, like as people are skimming and scanning, it's not like a visual that immediately speaks to what the product is. Podcasting, it's and the name isn't necessarily intuitive. But when the voiceover explains what it is and how easy it is, again, so I think we got to
That's a
And we
dichotomy
use
kind of
it.
a thing.
Social
Okay.
proof, because we actually use it.
and there's
Okay.
absolutely social proof, which is
Hmm.
good. And that, I think that goes pardon me, that goes a long way, because you guys
Okay.
have established credibility, you've established a relationship with your listeners, and a word from the two of you is all somebody really needs.
The police are coming for Nancy because her book is
Yeah, I
just
hear
too
this.
good.
All right, now I'm gonna
Sorry.
They're coming right to the house. I'm gonna try another one. Ready? Okay. This
Ready.
is from another chapter in Nancy's book, by the way. One day, a nice lady sent me an email and said, I will give you a bag of money if you promote this domain of ours, .online. And we're very nice. And she was from Indonesia, and so were her developers. So I'd have to wake up at 2:24 in the morning to have meetings with them. But the outcome was we got a really cool, platform. We got the Backpack Show. So if you want your own online domain for only 99 cents, at least for now, listen, I'm taking that offer off the table, but you have to use the code Chris. Now, here's the trick. And I know you're smarter, so I know you're going to get this. You just have to put in the code Chris, but you have to do all caps or you won't get the 99 cents. So get it at cbrogan.net/online.
You'll lose your discount if you don't put the code in all caps. I don't know why.
How do we do, Nancy?
So wait, you had a little bit of storytelling there, which is great, because storytelling can be incredibly effective. You've got some urgency and some exclusivity with this idea that you have to use the code. Maybe there's just a little bit of effort because it has to be all caps, and that's okay, because sometimes putting a little bit of effort in actually makes something more valuable. So you got a lot of good stuff going on here. And I particularly like, the little story behind it, because stories are very memorable. And that's the thing that people will take away. It's like, oh yeah, Chris was getting up at 2 a.m. to do this, but it turned out to work out really well for him. And then people think to themselves, well, if it worked out well for him, maybe it'll work out well for me.
Oh, Chris has got stories. Don't you worry. Deanna says that the StreamYard one worked on her 2 years in with StreamYard.
Oh, that is great. And congratulations, Dan, on
But,
this.
it's not like we could wholly take credit for that. Like if StreamYard sucked,
No.
people wouldn't stick with it. We use it because it's great. And so when we say it's great and someone tries it, like the product obviously has to carry itself after that point.
So once upon a time, this guy named Colin was looking around for his listings on Google. You might have heard of Google, and Google had stuffed him onto the second or third page, even though he'd spent a lot of money on search engine optimization.
Optimizing small business pages.
Yeah, and they were mucking with him, and he finally said, "You know what? Google, F you. I'm making my own search engine," and so he did. and he made a search engine called Presearch. You can go to presearch.com to do this. Now, here's the thing. Unlike Google, where you have no real influence unless you spend tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of dollars, at Presearch, you could buy a little bit of cryptocurrency, and also when you log in, you get to use this currency. The more you search on Presearch, you get more coins just for searching. When you log in, you can what they call stake search terms, which means you can set up best marketer and it would just pop right to nancyharhut.com.
Mm-hmm.
So presearch.com comes out of sticking it to Google and also showing a whole different way you could do search based on socially purchased interactions.
The decentralized search engine.
What do you say, Nancy?
Well, I love the name. I think that's a great name. And then the tagline, if you will, the decentralized search engine explains exactly what it is. And then each of those bullets starts with a verb, which is a great practice. And it kind of, it speaks to people liking another option, ending the search monopoly. It's like, I don't want to have to, use the same thing everyone else does. I want a different way. And then we've got the contrast in color for the button, which is good. And I think this is great. A nice, powerful, strong ad.
I don't know
Look at the
how we
stuff you
missed
learn.
Cody's comment, but he says it's like you go to the bar and you don't want to sit next to the guy who goes on and on and on about why his beer is his favorite draft beer. You just want to be by the guy who says chug that beer.
I don't
On
know.
one word can work. If you were like chug this robust beer, that right? One word can make a difference.
Yeah. I mean, the chug suggests something very different than try
or savor,
drink, or savor. Yeah, absolutely.
So go to the bar with Cody, I guess.
Most definitely so. You have, we couldn't get through all 17 chapters of this book, but I do definitely want to ask the question on the last one, because it was the one where when I turned the page and I saw the chapter title, I went, huh? Temporal Landmarks and Temporal Discounting. What are you on about, Nancy Harhut?
Yeah, so these are both principles that involve timing, right? And they're almost like the yin and the yang, if you will. So there's temporal landmarks, and temporal landmarks are points in time on the calendar, if you will, where people feel like they're closing the door on their old selves and opening the door on their new selves, right? So sometimes it's called the fresh start effect. But a great example would be New Year's Day, right? What do? We have all of these New Year's resolutions. Like it's like, okay, I didn't do it last year, but this year I'm going to do it. So and that's one that we all share. Birthdays are also temporal landmarks, and of course they're all your birthday is different than my birthday, although our mom's birthday happens to be the same. But birthdays can be temporal landmarks. Mondays can be temporal landmarks. How often have you heard someone say, I am starting my exercise routine on Wednesday? Like they're like, no, come Monday, I'm starting my, So temporal landmarks are these times where people really feel that they're renewed, they're re-energized, they really can accomplish their goal. So it would suggest maybe that, marketing certain things on Mondays might be better, depending on what it is you're selling. If it's like a self-improvement thing for something, because Mondays are when I feel like I can do this. Beginning of the year is when I feel I can do this. Beginning of the month is when I feel I can do this. So it's all about the old you is gone and the new you is filled with possibilities. Now, temporal discounting is interesting, because with temporal discounting, it's all about present focus bias. We prefer instant gratification. So a lot of studies have shown if you offer somebody $5 today or $15 at the end of the week, they'll take the $5 today. And then when the end of the week comes, they're like, shoot, I should have waited. I should have held out for the 15. But we want sooner, albeit smaller rewards, as opposed to later, albeit larger rewards.
And so like how people who win the lottery, they take the lump sum now.
Yeah, so we just want it now. We want that instant gratification. We don't like to delay. We don't like to wait. And we actually kind of discount what those rewards might be. So this becomes a problem for marketers that sell products or services that don't have an immediate payoff. Maybe you're selling saving for retirement, or a higher education, going back to college, going back to school, or maybe you're selling insurance, things that have a distant, or if at all, payoff. And so what you have to do in that case is you have to overcome temporal discounting. And the way to overcome it is to make people realize that the person they are today is going to be the same person they are 1 year, 10 years, 20 years down the road. So with temporal landmarks, it's like who you were yesterday is different than who you are today. With temporal discounting, it's like who you are today is going to be the same person that you are, like for example, Chris, you like to maybe make decisions about spending money. On a Saturday night, you might say to your family, let's go out to dinner, right? You can do that. So when you're retired, you're going to want to be able to do that same kind of thing. You're not going to not want to be able to do that. The same preferences and likes and goals that you have now, you're going to have then. And if I can make you see yourself that way, but in the future, then you might say, yeah, it does make sense for me to put some money away for retirement because I don't want to have to give that up when I'm retired. I'm going to want to do the same things then that I want to do now. So it's really interesting. It's like on the one hand, it's very helpful to tell people you're a brand new person. In other instances, it's very helpful to tell people, no, you're going to be the same person then that you are now. So
I got braces after talking with Dory Clark because she had her grandmother, I guess, got braces, and people were like, "Why? It's like 2 years." And she said, "Well, 2 years is going to go by anyway, so might as well have straight teeth at the end of 2 years." And I thought, yeah. So same person, but with straighter teeth.
there you go.
So you need to get this book. It's packed. Now you can pre-order it right in the States. It's not out in the States yet, but it is out in the UK. So bonus if you live there.
Yeah, it's out in the UK, and as Kogan Page, the publisher, says, UK and rest of world, not the rest of the world, but UK and rest of world.
Rest of world.
So it's out there, and you can pre-order it now. And apparently, pre-orders. I'm a brand new author, so this is new to me. But apparently, pre-orders are very, very important for authors. So rather than waiting, pre-order it now, and it'll be out at the end of the month. And if anyone is interested, I would encourage you to do that, and I would thank you very much for doing that.
You're going to want to do that because you're not going to want to forget and have everybody else using these tactics when you're not. That's what it amounts to.
I mean,
Everybody else will start doing better than you.
If you have something to sell, including yourself, this is the book. This is the book. There is no other book. Get this book. It may or may not be better than other people in the categories book. I just don't want to say that because he'll kill me. Thank you, Michael. And yes, Chloe, get on down to the old, what's it, Waterstones? I love that store. All right.
Hey, no, she needs to work on your website first to make it purple.
Well, I need a purple site. Now, what's this over here?
Oh, and here's our person of the day. Kaboom!
This could be I don't know. I was thinking the same thought, to be really honest. It's kind of contentious in some ways. I mean, there's a lot here.
Yes.
What do we
If you go by longest comment, it would be Cody. If you go by most comments, it would be somebody else. So.
Yep. I feel like.
Are you is rhyming like a consideration, or?
I mean, could be. I feel like there was a lot of good conversation with Joel, the franchise king himself, king of franchises. Nancy, not just a peasant, not a serf. He's the one. Joel,
he's a regal king.
Regal King. That entitles you to one free apple. You just have to run down to a store and pick it up yourself, and then you are entitled to an apple. Oh, Waterstones.
It is Waterstones.
I bought my favorite copy of Richard Branson's book, Business Stripped Bare, at a Waterstones, and then I bought about 8 more at a Waterstones. And then when I finally bought one in the U.S., I was like, this isn't the book, because the way they make books in the UK is so much better than the U.S. It's a whole different process, by the way.
Does Nancy get to put something in the backpack again?
No.
No, you got one shot at it.
No. We come to the part of the show where we ask every guest the same kind of question. It is, what goes in your backpack? This could be something metaphorical. It could be something physical. Kerry, what's a good idea of something metaphorical someone could put in a backpack?
Ooh, kindness. Ariel Helvetica, burlesque performer. Put kindness in the backpack.
She was well received with that answer.
Hey, she can afford to be kind. She's got legs like a baby giraffe and a pretty nice career based on it.
She does. She's living off those legs. Kerry, what's something physical you can throw in the backpack? Anything good?
Extra set of teeth. DJ Cumberbund.
Never know when you're going to need them. Nancy Harhut, fresh, shiny, minted author of Using Behavioral Science and Marketing. What would you put in the backpack today?
Well, I think, a healthy understanding of human beings and, how we behave. And I think if you have that, you're less likely to get flustered or angered by people. You're a lot more likely to give people the benefit of the doubt. And you're probably better positioned to communicate and to get people to see your point of view and to make your needs and your wishes known. So I would say it's a healthy understanding of people and human nature. And if you want a physical thing, grab the copy of the book and pop that in there. You always pull it out and check if you need.
Because it will give you an understanding of human nature.
This is true.
Super worthwhile book. Super worthwhile book. In the
Oh,
spirit
thank
of
you.
birthdays, I was going to tell you the story about not my grandmother this time, but how for very many years, my mom's go-to birthday cake she'd make for anybody's birthday, and sometimes even if she'd make up people's birthdays, would be a bundt cake with a light, soft, Cool Whip kind of frosting, which had pistachio jello, pistachio pudding mixed in. So it was like a pistachio over bundt cake. Now, the one time we had a variation on it that kind of went horribly wrong, let me just tell you what she put in.
You don't mix meat and bundt cake. Nobody does that.